Good morning, everybody. This is your boy Ed Dog, CV Growing Farms. Just want to talk a little bit about plant nutrients. I know we had a video last about gathering some plant nutrients. That was one of our many, a long list of ingredients that I have here. So I went ahead and wrote everything down for you guys. Post this as well, put it in the video description. But we're going to go over some of these ingredients today. I'm an outdoor grower. That's what we do normally. I've also been involved in a lot of indoor grows, but I just wanted to talk a little bit about nutrients today, plant nutrients. These nutrients we're going to go over today is generally for an organic soil, or what we like to use as our soil for our grows. We use this soil not just outdoors, but indoors as well, so you can do the same. So what we're going to do is we're going to talk about compost teas for a minute. Now, compost teas, if you're providing beneficial microbes, beneficial bacteria, all this stuff into your soil, what you're doing is you're creating your own environment for the plant itself. Instead of using any salt-based or any of those other chemical-based grow formulas, what we do here is we create our own organic combination for the soil, and our plants actually get a lot of vigor and they thrive from what we use. So we're going to go ahead and share that with you guys today. We'll talk about compost teas. If you've never made a compost tea, generally what you're going to do is just use something like a mesh sack or some kind of a bag or something that you can put these ingredients into. 5-gallon bucket if you have a smaller grow, depending on the volume of water you're going to need, and you need agitation going on. So get yourself like a fish tank pump, like an air pump, something like that with some air stones. We also use a water pump, so we get the water circulating. So we got an air pump with air stones, a water pump, a little 5-gallon bucket, and then you can scale it up from there, but I'll give you the ingredients based on 5 gallons. But with your compost tea, you're going to need an air stone, a 5-gallon bucket, and generally a water pump or some type of circulation for the water itself. So you add your water in there along with this list of ingredients that I'm going to provide to you now. Now, when you're brewing your compost teas, you're going to want to leave your teas in there for 24 hours, preferably more than that. We go usually 48 hours, a good 2 days on that. You'll see some good foaming going on. And generally in the last 12 hours or so, we'll add additional molasses just to feed some of the microbes, the bacteria and so forth in there before we actually water our plants with this. So let's go over this list, guys. So for our compost tea, one of the first and most important things we use is salmon heads. Okay, you can get salmon heads down at your local butcher, grocery store, or something like that. If you can't get salmon, I'm sure any other type of fish would work. We use salmon just because of the abundance up here in the West Coast. It's generally something you can find in any grocery store. Another thing we do is crab, like you saw in our last videos. We crush them up, we put them in the blender and get them going in the teas as well. The other thing we use for nitrogen is blood meal. Blood meal is going to take a little while it doesn't really dissolve into the water itself. Okay, so you're going to want to, we actually put this into the water, not into the bag. So it makes a little bit of a mess because it likes to stay on top. But after a while, the blood meal will certainly start circulating with your water and it'll get mixed in there good. The other thing that goes directly into your water, not in your bag, is molasses. Okay, you want to put molasses in. Now, I'm not going over the amounts, but I'll go ahead and list it below. Should be right here somewhere. And I'll list those ingredients for you guys, or the amounts of the ingredients for you guys. So molasses, like I mentioned, and then also the raw silica. It doesn't need to necessarily be from raw, but silica is going to provide your plants with flexibility, and it also deters bugs from actually chewing or feeding on the plant material itself. So when you get the flexibility of your plants, it allows them to carry more weight, and it's just like supporting it with the trellises. If your plant feels like it's just can't handle the weight, it's going to stop producing buds. So you want to do this for your plant right from the get-go. Start adding silica from when they're small plants, and you'll see the dynamic growth. That's how we get lots of our stalks the way they are. If you see another one of our videos about the size of our stalks, little clones like this with stalks the size of my pinky. I mean, so I think the raw silica is definitely a good product. And that's what we use for our first compost tea. Now, when I say our first compost tea, we try not to hit the plants too hard originally, okay, with the first mixture. So when we do our first feeding of the tea, the plants will generally be 2 or 3 weeks into veg. But what happens is if you put too many of the other ingredients that we're going to talk about next, then we're going to end up burning those plants because they're just not ready for it yet. So we try to ease them in with the first list of products that I just gave you. So let's go ahead and talk about the second tea, or the second feeding of the compost tea and thereon. Now, this frequency of the teas that we do is about once a week. And that's generally how you should be watering your plants, about once a week. Depending on your climate, other things, there's a lot of other variables, but I don't see any reason why you would need to water your plants more than once a week. If you're providing the right amount, the sufficient amount of water to dampen your roots, then to get all of your soil, reduce all the dry pockets and all that sort of thing. So let's talk about our second tea, okay? So from week 4 of veg and so forth, and all the way through into, right into harvest, really, because you don't need to flush these products. They're all organic products, so you don't need any flushing or anything like that with your buds that you would normally have to do with salts or chemical-based fertilizers. We use the salmon heads once again. Now, if you can't get salmon, another alternative is anchovies. So we'll throw it in there, get it emulsified as well. Another thing we add this time is bat guano. Now, bat guano is high in nitrogen, and if you use too much of it, it will burn your plants, okay? It's a very strong fertilizer, just like the next one I'm going to mention. We use owl guano just because we have a lot of owls in the area and owl boxes, but you can use Seabird guano. Another thing we add into the second tea is worm castings. Now, the reason why we didn't add the worm castings originally in the first tea is because we already put it into the soil when we originally made our transfer. So when we build our soil, we have worm castings and so forth in there. So in our second tea, we're going to actually add the worm castings to the tea. So I just want to mention that coffee grounds are a part of this. Don't know what the effect is, but it might have something to do with it. Now, another product we do use is oyster shells. Yeah, it's a great source of calcium, really super high. And your plants are going to benefit from oyster shells. So let's just go over that. A quick recap is the salmon or anchovy, the shrimp, bat guano, owl or seabird guano, worm castings, coffee grounds, oyster shells, and blood meal. That's going to be for your second compost tea. Oh, second and thereon. Another thing we want to talk about today is seed teas, or otherwise known as sprout teas. I'm sure a lot of you have heard about sprout teas, Cali grown buds. If you haven't already subscribed to his channel, you guys should go check out his videos. He's got a great video on sprout teas, and he's got his own methods and so forth on actually germinating the sprouts and getting the full benefit of the bacteria and molds that are growing on top of that. So you might want to check out Cali grown as far as your sprout tea particulars. We use alfalfa. Another thing we add is corn. And once you start seeing those sprouts coming out of the corn, when they're about an inch or so, it's time to put them in the blender, get them all blended up, and those have awesome growth hormones. Another thing we do add in our sprout tea is barley sprouts. And then the last but not least is the chia and flaxseed mix. It's the super seed mix. You can find it online at Amazon. But generally we will get all of these seeds that we've mentioned, we will germinate through the process of putting them in a jar, getting them nice and wet, soaking them overnight, and then what we'll do is pour them out into a tray or something like that, just with a tiny bit of water underneath, leave them there, and every day or so you want to check on those and make sure they're not dry. Okay, it should take 2, 3, 4 days for you'll start seeing sprouts coming out. Make sure you make sure you plan ahead of time before you're using your sprout teas. When we're watering our plants, when we're just putting water, what we do is we add some kelp. Okay, we add kelp, we'll add bat guano, some of the raw silica, and the azos mycorrhizae. But I appreciate you guys watching. I just wanted to share, like I said, what we use here at CV Grown Farms. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Please share this video with your friends and anybody else you think that might benefit from some of the content that we have here at CV Grown Farms. Thank you very much. And don't forget, if you guys have any questions, go ahead and reach out to me. You can either reach out in the comments below. We also have an Instagram page and a Facebook. make sure you stay tuned because some big things are happening. Now that we're getting over this rain here, we're going to be working on the farm, and we'll take you guys out and we'll start working on these CBDs and show you the process on getting this farm actually going and what we do to prepare for our outdoor growing season. That's all I got for today. Thanks for watching. All right, guys. Peace.